Ever been in a conversation where the words seemed fine, but something just felt well off? Like you
Mm.
couldn't quite put your finger on it, but you walked away wondering what the other person really thought.
Oh, definitely. Or maybe you feel like you're saying all the right things, but you're just not connecting, you know?
Exactly. Or you get feedback that you're a good speaker, but maybe a bit intimidating.
Yeah, that happens. It's fascinating, isn't it? This whole realm of communication that goes way beyond just the words we use.
It really is like those gut feelings you get about someone.
Yeah. Or that instant click.
Hmm.
Often that's your brain just processing a ton of nonverbal stuff.
Absolutely. And that's what we're diving into today, this powerful kind of hidden language of body language.
Yeah.
We're drawing from some really insightful sources. There's a great conversation with behavioral investigator Vanessa Van Edwards on The Diary of a CEO. She's got this science-backed approach.
Right. Really digging into the why.
And then there's a fantastic TED Talk by Alan Pease. He's like a legend in decoding body language, spent decades on it.
So we've got this cool mix, the science of connection from Van Edwards and these really practical, real-world observations from Peace.
Yeah, it gives us a pretty rich picture, I think.
Definitely.
So our goal today for you listening is to make this super practical. We want you to walk away not just knowing about body language, but actually feeling like empowered.
Right, to understand what's really being communicated.
Yeah.
Uh,
And how you can use these cues yourself to, communicate better, make stronger first impressions, feel more confident in, well, all sorts of situations.
Sounds good. So where should we start? It's a big topic.
Let's maybe start with something huge from Vanessa Van Edwards. This idea about how much our brains actually trust what they see versus what they hear.
Yeah, the statistic, it's pretty mind-blowing. She
Yeah.
says the brain is, get this, 12.5 times more likely to believe gestures over words.
12 and a half times. That's, wow. It really makes you stop and think, doesn't it?
It really does. She even has that simple little exercise to show it, like, try saying the word yes, but shaking your head no. Right, it feels so jarring.
Yeah, your brain just immediately flags that conflict. Like, nope, something's wrong here.
Exactly. And that disconnect is key. Van Edwards explains that this is why it's so hard to lie convincingly with your body language.
Right. The truth kind of leaks out.
Sort of, yeah. Your genuine feelings, your intentions, they often show up in these little micro expressions or gestures, even if your words are saying something totally different.
Interesting.
And she mentioned that liars actually tend to use fewer hand gestures because trying to control both the words and the body is just, well, too much mental effort.
That makes sense. But it's not just about these big, obvious things, is it? Like, Van Edwards breaks communication down into different streams or channels.
Yeah, 4 key channels. First, you've got body language itself, so
Yeah.
facial expressions, how you stand or sit, posture, those hand movements we just talked about.
Okay.
Then there are vocal cues. That's not what you say, but
Eh.
how you say it, your tone, your pace, volume, the rhythm, the cadence of your speech.
Uh-huh. Makes sense.
Third is verbal cues. Now, that's the actual words you choose.
Right.
And finally, something we might overlook, ornaments.
Yeah.
Your clothes, jewelry, hairstyle, all that stuff sends signals too.
Huh. Ornaments? I hadn't really thought of it that way, but yeah, it totally does.
And here's where it gets really interesting, connecting it to first impressions. Van Edwards highlights this research, finding that a huge chunk, 82% of a first impression, comes down to how much warmth and competence the other person perceives.
82%. Wow. So mostly warmth and competence.
Exactly. And the crucial thing is all 4 of those channels, body, voice, words, ornaments, they all feed into how we project warmth and competence.
So if we're more aware of, say, our posture, making sure we have a warm smile, keeping our voice steady, maybe dressing appropriately for the situation, we're actively shaping that first impression.
Precisely. And Van Edwards argues that getting this right isn't just superficial. It actually makes us more memorable. It helps us project more confidence, and it leads to clearer, more effective communication. And that impacts everything, friendships, partnerships, your career.
Right across the board. Okay, so that brings up the big question. How do we actually use this? How can we be more intentional? Maybe we can shift to Alan Pease here. He talks a lot about hands, right?
Well, absolutely.
Yeah.
Pease's work on hand gestures is fascinating. He really emphasizes how much our hands are talking, even when we don't realize it.
Yeah.
He even brings in this evolutionary angle. Showing open palms, historically, was basically a signal for, I'm not holding a weapon, I'm not a threat.
Huh. That makes so much sense. You know that feeling you get when someone greets you with open, relaxed hands?
Totally. It's like this deep primal sense of ease. It's wired in.
So cool.
And what's really compelling is how the most effective communicators, the really competent ones, naturally use their hands. They gesture to outline ideas, to emphasize points.
They're more animated.
Exactly. Pease mentions this study looking at TED Talks. The speakers whose talks went viral used way more hand gestures, like an average of 465 gestures in an 18-minute talk.
465 compared to...
Compared to speakers whose talks didn't take off as much, who averaged only 271, that's a massive difference.
Wow, that really paints a picture. It's like the gestures add another layer of meaning or energy.
They really do. Think about it. If someone's talking about a really big idea,
Yeah.
right? But their hands are maybe fidgeting down low or making these tiny little movements.
Yeah, it feels mismatched.
Right. And like Van Edwards said, your brain kind of defaults to believing the gesture. So the small gesture subconsciously signals maybe the idea isn't that big after all.
That disconnect again.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And Pease doubles down on Van Edwards' point about lying. When your hand gestures are naturally in sync with what you're saying.
Congruent.
Exactly, congruent. That builds trust. It signals honesty. That alignment is just crucial for building rapport.
It even works online, apparently.
Yeah.
Van Edwards talked about an experiment on the Diary of a CEO YouTube channel.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, the thumbnails where she was making a hand gesture actually got more clicks.
No way. That's wild.
Isn't it? Like even that tiny visual cue communicates something, maybe intention or energy that draws people in.
And there's another layer, too. If you consciously try not to gesture, if you hold yourself really still, it can actually flatten your voice. Your vocal delivery suffers. Think about when you're really engaged, using your hands, your voice naturally gets more dynamic, right? More varied.
Yeah, more energy, more charisma.
It's all connected. Limiting the physical can limit the vocal expression.
Okay, so using our hands helps project competence, honesty, even charisma. But what about the other side of that coin, warmth? Especially if maybe you've gotten feedback that you seem a bit aloof or hard to approach.
Right, the intimidation factor.
Yeah.
Vanessa Van Edwards has some really useful, practical warmth cues for exactly that.
Okay, good. What are they?
Well, what's great about them is they're often subtle, but they can have a really big impact. And they're based on behavioral science. Take the triple nod.
The triple nod, okay.
Yeah, not just any nodding. A slow, deliberate set of 3 nods while someone else is talking. It signals you're really listening, you're engaged, and it actually encourages them to keep talking.
How much longer?
Research suggests it can get them to talk up to 67% longer.
Whoa! Just from 3 slow nods.
Yep. But the key is slow and deliberate. Van Edwards warns against, like the rapid bobblehead nod.
Yeah, that just looks eager, maybe.
Well,
or fake.
Right, or insincere. And also avoid fast, jerky nods that can signal impatience, like you're just waiting to jump in.
Gotcha. Slow, deliberate, triple nod. What else?
The head tilt. Just a slight tilt of the head while listening. It's seen pretty much universally as a sign of attentiveness, like you're processing what's being said.
Okay.
And interestingly, she notes that even if you have to deliver bad news or constructive criticism, doing it with a slight head tilt can actually make you seem more likable. It softens the blow, conveys empathy.
Huh. That's a useful one.
Then, the obvious but crucial one, the authentic smile.
The Duchenne smile, right. The one that reaches the eyes.
Exactly. That crinkling around the eyes. It signals genuine warmth and approachability. And it has to be genuine. People are pretty good at spotting a fake smile.
For sure. Okay, nods, tilts, smiles.
Yeah.
Anything else?
The lean. Simply leaning slightly towards the person you're talking to.
Shows engagement.
Yeah, creates a bit of connection, shows interest. But again, it's a balance. Van Edwards cautions against leaning in too much.
Why is that?
It can come across as maybe overly eager or even a bit submissive in some contexts. So find that comfortable middle ground, engaged, but not overwhelming.
Right, like you're interested, not desperate.
Pretty much. And then for really building those positive vibes, she talks about nonverbal bridges.
Nonverbal bridges? Like what?
These are small things, often unconscious, like subtly mirroring someone's posture for a moment, or maybe a very light, brief touch on the arm during a shared laugh or point of agreement, obviously. Context is key there.
Yeah, gotta be appropriate.
Totally. But she mentioned a speed networking study where these little bridges were seen way more often in the interactions people rated as the most positive.
Interesting.
Even something like during a handshake, gently placing your other hand briefly over theirs, sometimes called cupping. That can be a very high warmth gesture.
But again, only if it feels genuine, right? Not forced.
Absolutely. Authenticity is paramount with all these warmth cues.
Okay. This is super helpful for building connection. Now, what about confidence and maybe those trickier power dynamics? Alan Pease talks about this too, doesn't he? Especially with handshakes.
He does. The handshake is such a common ritual, but Pease shows how much it can communicate about power.
Yeah. How so?
Well, he says a handshake can basically leave you feeling one of three ways.
Mm-hmm.
Good connection, a bit intimidated, or like the other person is actively trying to dominate.
And that comes down to?
A lot of it is the angle and the pressure.
Yeah.
Think about the phrase having the upper hand. Pease explains that actually comes from Roman times, linked to the physical act of whose hand was literally on top in a grip or handshake. The person with their palm facing slightly down had the upper hand.
Wow, history in a handshake. So how do we avoid sending the wrong signal? How do we aim for that good connection?
Pease gives two really simple rules.
Mm.
First, keep your hand straight, vertical, neither palm up nor palm down. Equal footing.
Okay, straight hand.
Second, match the pressure you receive. Don't crush their hand if they offer a gentle grip, and don't offer a limp fish if they give a firm one. Aim for equal pressure.
Mutual respect.
Exactly. It sets the tone right away. And remember, our palms have this incredible density of nerve endings connecting to the brain, more than most other body parts.
So our hands are really sensitive communicators.
Highly sensitive. Which leads into Pease's points about palm position during communication generally, not just handshakes.
Right, you mentioned compliance rates earlier.
Yeah, that study was
Yeah.
fascinating. Speaker asked the audience to do something. Palm, facing up open, non-threatening, receptive gesture. 84% compliance. Huge.
Wow.
Same request, but speaker uses a palm down gesture more authoritative, like, do this.
Compliance.
Drops to 52%. Still majority, but much less effective.
And the finger point.
Oof, the finger point. Compliance plummets to 28%. Pease basically says, just don't do it. It comes across as aggressive, arrogant, accusatory, really negative vibes.
Good advice. Avoid the finger point. So palm up for requests or openness, palm down for maybe giving direction if you have authority, but use it carefully.
Precisely. And this ties back beautifully to projecting confidence, linking back to Van Edwards too. Intentionally adopting confident postures.
It's like standing tall, open gestures.
Yeah, even if you don't feel confident in the moment, adopting the physicality of confidence can actually help you feel more confident.
The fake it till you make it idea, but for your body?
Kinda, yeah. Or maybe act as if. There's even a specific gesture Pease mentions, sometimes called steepling or praying hands, where you lightly touch your fingertips together. It's often seen as a signal of confidence and thoughtfulness.
Interesting. And conversely, there are postures that signal low confidence, right? Ken and Tandy mentioned this on Rashomani's show.
Things like slouching, avoiding eye contact, hunching your shoulders, making yourself physically smaller. These low-power stances can unfortunately project weakness or uncertainty.
Even if that's not how you actually feel inside.
Right. People read the signals.
Okay, wow, we've covered a lot of ground here. Let's try and sum up the big takeaways.
Sounds good. So first big one. Nonverbal cues are incredibly powerful. Remember Van Edwards' point, the brain trusts gestures way more than words.
Or 12.5 times more. And those first impressions hinge massively on perceived warmth and competence, which we signal through multiple channels.
Then Alan Pease really drove home the importance of hand gestures. Open palms for trust, using gestures to emphasize your message. It boosts clarity, honesty, even charisma. Avoid that finger point.
Got it. And for building connection, we have Vanessa Van Edwards' warmth cues, the slow triple nod,
The head tilt for listening.
the genuine smile that reaches the eyes.
The engaged lean, and those nonverbal bridges.
All subtle ways to build rapport and make people feel comfortable.
And finally, confidence and power dynamics. Keep that handshake straight and match the pressure. Use palm-up gestures for persuasion, palm down for authority sparingly, and be mindful of your posture. Stand tall. Adopt confident stances.
It can actually make you feel more confident, too.
Exactly. So the big message for you listening is really about awareness. Start noticing your own body language. What signals are you sending out, maybe without even realizing it?
And pay attention to others, too. You might be surprised what you pick up on now.
Yeah, maybe even try experimenting a little. Make a small change, use more open gestures, try that triple nod, and just observe. See what happens.
See how it impacts your interactions.
Which brings us to maybe a final thought for you to chew on.
Okay.
Now that you're more aware of this whole hidden language, this nonverbal world, how might you consciously use it? How can you leverage these insights to create more positive, more successful, and maybe more authentic interactions in your own life?
Something to think about. Follow the deep dive for more insights into the fascinating world of human behavior and communication.